I'd like to talk to you guys tonight about happiness from my perspective. I made the image that you see here 16 years ago as a sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. If you look closely, you'll see 4 of my Marine Corps buddies fighting a 2,000-degree propane fire. If you knew these guys outside of all that firefighting gear, you would know they were 4 goofballs that like to drink beer and tell dirty jokes. But as a Marine, I was able to field strip my weapon, my M16, in a matter of seconds. I could engage a target from 500 yards away. But the military wasn't my calling. So after 4 years of serving beside some of the bravest people I've ever met, I traded my weapon for a camera, and I learned about myself through photojournalism. Telling stories with my camera just felt like an extension of me. I sought out all the meaningful stories that I could and just couldn't get enough of it. I started making photographs of stories like this. Here you see this family in the immediate aftermath of a drive-by shooting. The folks in this photograph are fleeing a massive, massive wildfire. I was amazed by the things that they put in their car. I thought to myself, this fire is at your back door. And they're putting rugs and different things in their car. And that was what it was. And I came back the next day. Fortunately, the fire had stopped right at their back fence. The image here is of a woman that's being evicted from her home for serious health and safety violations. This young man in this photograph just learned that he failed the California high school exit exam for the very last time and that he would not be graduating high school. Then there was Mary Nicosia and a young Nicaraguan child named Jordan. Being an ICU nurse, Mary knew that the only way that Jordan would receive the advanced medical care that she needed was for Mary to adopt Jordan. When I heard what Mary was doing, I had no choice but to follow Mary to Nicaragua. When I did, our first stop was a very disgusting place called La Chireca. It's a massive garbage dump on the outskirts of Managua, where teams of people scavenge for scraps of food and recyclables that they can turn around and sell for pennies. This woman in this image here was being treated for a self-inflicted laceration on the inside of her arm. The doctors told her that she needed to return for follow-up care, but instead she disappeared into the fields of waste, and they never saw her again. In Ethiopia, I crossed paths with a man who spent all 7 of his decades farming in a country where people starve, a sex worker in the slums of Addis Ababa, and this young woman who spent her first 9 years of life evading school because of the deep shame she felt from the disfiguration of her face. So I sought out stories like this because I felt like in some small way I could make a difference in the world by illustrating these folks' story. But what I found was the massive sadness that I was surrounding myself with really began to affect me. And I started asking myself questions like, is there really hope for happiness? And that's when I met the Tarleton family. The Tarletons are a family of Liberian refugees who were literally hunted during one of that country's civil wars. They hid in jungles where their babies were born and where many of their friends and family died. They lived like that for 4 years. Ultimately, 26 of the Tarletons were able to escape that existence and immigrated to the United States, where they now live on a 50-acre farm in Northern California here, and they grow organic vegetables and spices, and they couldn't be happier. Each year since their arrival, they open up their farm to the world, and they celebrate. They celebrate their good fortune. They sing, they dance, they drum, they just exude happiness. And I saw that, and I really took that to heart. I thought to myself, if these folks can persevere through something like that, if they can come through on the other side and they can thrive and they can actually just be happy after something like that, any trials and tribulations in my life just simply pale by comparison. So, if there's one thing that I would leave you with here tonight, it's this. If you ever find yourself wondering things like, is there hope for happiness? My hope is that you would remember people like the Tarleton family.
you.